All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take you guys through the classes in Dark Age of Camelot today. So we're going to start with, let's see, Midgard, and we'll go through, create a character here, and I'll just kind of explain to you what each class is all about from a beginner's perspective. So if you're looking to get into the game as a beginner or a returning player, and you're like, hey, I don't know what to do. What should I do? Give me the brief overview. That's this video. If you're an experienced player, not the video for you. You probably already know this. Not worth watching. So just to clarify that. Now, okay, so let's say you're brand new to this game or you're returning after 20 years. What do you do? What class? It can be overwhelming. There's like an enormous amount of classes in this game. I'm just going to break it down and make it simple so you can understand it, digest it, and then choose what you want to play. Because I think it's a great game. I think new players joining it is great. It's just, you got to get over that hurdle of like all the information overload and how to actually play it. So, okay, let's go through it. Now, there's, let's see, not mirror classes in Dark Age of Camelot, but there are mirror archetypes. So you have like the main tank, which is Warrior on Midgard. You have a light tank, which is like the Berserker. And then you'll have those kind of types of classes on the other realms as well. You have like a main healer, a main crowd control, and a lot of classes that mirror each other. And then you have some just completely unique classes that only are on that realm, don't even really fit an archetype at all, which is kind of fun. That's what makes this game so much fun. So you can, you know, each class counters each other. Some classes are good for solo, some are good for group, some are pretty good for everything. And so I'll walk you through the best options here. So Warrior, main tank, has a shield, has slam, so you can stun somebody up close for 9 seconds. They have a two-handed weapon, which is great damage for, you know, a lot of people coming from other MMOs, like the main tank doesn't really do any damage. They're just kind of like a meat shield. And it's kind of interesting in this game. You're not like the highest DPS melee, but you can do some pretty respectable DPS even as a main tank, which is really fun, and it makes it a really great class to play. So Warrior can bust out the two-handed, do some damage. They got extra points to put into parry, so they have a lot of defense. They got evade. It's a really cool class to play, and I played 1 to 5L7. So there's realm ranks later in the game, and you play a higher rank once you get to the cap level, and you get the rank through RVR. Fighting between the realms. Okay, Warrior's fun. I'd recommend Warrior or probably like a Runemaster. If you're starting out on Midgard, you've decided, hey, look, I like the Vikings, I like the trolls, you know, I like the dwarfs, I like these guys. Warrior or Runemaster, pretty good choices to start your character. Runemaster has these bolts. They do a lot of damage from range. They have a debuff for groups. So yeah, you could kind of solo. You could go in the battle group and do damage from range. So you have a lot of options. They don't have an enormous amount of spells, so it makes it more palatable if you're newer to the game. Certain classes have just a ton of abilities. A certain melee, you have to learn how to like Q-bind things, meaning that if you have an MMO mouse or you got auto hotkey, you got to like assign different keys, abilities to different keys, so you can play the game a little bit more efficiently. And with Runemaster, you really don't have to do much of that. So that's why it's a good choice. You know, in Warrior, you could kind of get away with like slam and like a couple main styles. You can go a little bit more advanced with Warrior, but it's the 80-20, meaning like most of the benefit of a Warrior kind of comes from a few different abilities. So yeah, and then you have a Berserker, which is the light tank, which you can turn into a bear. You got you can get 2 axes and just hack away at people, do a bunch of damage. So that's a lot of fun. They have lower defenses than a Warrior, but they do a little bit more damage. So that's the trade-off. They have an ability called Charge, where they can run in without being stopped, which is kind of cool. Whereas one of the biggest aspects of this game is crowd control, and there's a mez, which can last like a minute. Unless somebody does damage to you, it can get broken, or demez gets cast on you. And then you have a stun, which is impossible to get out of unless you have a purge. You use an ability to get out of it. And then you have root, which is very difficult to get out of as well. And you sit there for a minute not being able to move. So being able to have charge really helps as a melee because you can just run in without being stopped, which is cool. Valkyrie also has charge. Valkyrie is like a healer. You have to be a female, by the way, to do Valkyrie. Valkyrie is like a healer that has a spear and a shield, and they don't do a ton of damage, but they can heal. They have interrupts, and it's pretty dynamic, like hybrid class. It's kind of like a healing melee class. So if you're into hybrids, cool. Probably a lot more buttons and things to worry about for a first-time player. So maybe wait till your second class to play that. Obviously, play whatever you like and are excited by, but just as a recommendation to not get overwhelmed, I'd wait to maybe play Valkyrie for the second class. All right, so then you have Savage. Savage is most similar to Berserker. It's not really a light tank. They have less hit points, but they have the ability to... They have all these abilities they can use that make them attack faster, evade more, take less damage from melee, and they're just way more powerful in close combat. Once the duration of those abilities are done, it actually takes away from their health. So it's kind of dangerous to play a Savage. You got to be, you got to time things correctly. You got to know how to play one, and they're a lot of fun because they're super powerful, but they can get killed pretty quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So, Savage, again, probably not a first choice class to play if you've never played the game before, but they can be a lot of fun. They also have charge, and they have like hand-to-hand weapons, which are the only class that gets that, which is super cool. They have two-handed weapons, and they can attack super, super fast because of their abilities. So they're pretty cool. You do not have a Mauler or a Warlock in the game, and there's also no Minotaurs. Minotaurs are kind of like the only race that's similar across all realms. Otherwise, all the races are different. So one of the reasons I believe they don't have Minotaurs is to make each realm still stand out and be a little bit more unique. And then you have... even though everybody loves the cows. And then Warlocks are just kind of too strong, so maybe they'll add them in the future in a nerfed version, similar to what they did for Valkyrie. But for the best that they're not here in their more powerful form, because they're kind of hard to fight. Same with Maulers. Maulers can be a little bit OP and hard to fight, so they're not in the game either. Let's see. And then you have Spiritmaster. Spiritmaster has a crowd control spell. They have a demez. So they're pretty good. They have a pet that can absorb damage for them. They have damage spells. They have debuffs. Pretty good caster class. Pet controls can take a little getting used to, so probably not a good first class to play. But they're still really good. Hunter, ranged, spear, bow. They have a dog that attacks stuff. Stealth, really fun class. They can go invisible. Yeah, really fun class. Beginner class, I don't know if I'd play it as a beginner, but it is a lot of fun. Healer, main CC class, meaning crowd control. Sit there for a minute until somebody does damage to you. Really powerful spell. So they have that. They have root. Similarly, you can't move for about a minute. They have Mez Cure, they have heals, instant heals, they have all kinds of stuff. Really good class, a lot of buttons. Probably not a good first choice unless you're just saying, hey, all I'm going to do is heal, and you just let everybody know when you get in a group, hey, all I'm doing is healing. That might be one option. Skald is a melee class that has, usually uses two-handed weapons, so they do pretty good damage. They have spells that are instant that do direct damage, so it's just like pretty decent burst damage. They can't really hang in a fight very well because they don't have a lot of defenses, so somebody can really kill them fairly quickly if you don't know what you're doing. But they do have some cool abilities, and if you're looking to go melee and you really want to be viable in groups as well, and you think warrior is too boring, then Skald can be fun. You have speed, you can run around faster, which is really helpful. So yeah, Skald's good. Good group class, good solo class. Then you have a Shadowblade, which is an assassin. So they have an axe on their left hand. They have a sword or an axe in their main hand. And they have poisons, and they can stealth, and they can just sneak up and backstab people and stun them. And so it's similar to a rogue in World of Warcraft or other games. So Shadowblade's good. Not a good group class, but a really good solo class. If you're trying to meet people, Shadowblade, not a popular option. Probably similar to a hunter. I'd say most of the other classes are pretty good for like being invited to a group, but Shadowblade is probably the worst. I know that, having played one. One of my first classes coming back was that. Thane as well. Thane's really good. They cast lightning. They have a shield. They're a little tanky, not really. Less tanky than a Berserker or a Warrior. But they can, they have a little bit of defense. They cast lightning. They have interrupts. They can throw a hammer and do burst damage. They're pretty damn powerful. Good hybrid class if you want to do melee and cast. Thanes are really popular in groups and good solo. First class, not a terrible first class. You just got to understand what the abilities do and know when to cast and when to not cast. So casting is one of the mechanics that I think people get turned off by most immediately when playing this game, because you have to stand still to cast, which is what makes the game so great for big scale battles, but it also frustrates people who have never been used to that mechanic before. So Midgard's kind of the Viking realm, the Norse realm. Albion's the, King Arthur's realm, like Knights of the Round Table stuff. You get a Britain Highlander, Inconu, half ogre. So on Albion, the class breakdown is Armsman, main tank, wears plate armor, bucket, plate bucket on your head. So high absorption. They have a pole arm, which is really good damage. They have a shield, so they're good. Armsmen are good main tanks. Paladin as well, the only other class in the game that can wear plate. Another kind of main tank, a little bit less hit points, a little bit less tanky in some ways than an Armsman, but they have a ton of group spells. So they have like Celerity, which means they can attack super fast with their two-handed, which affects the rest of the group. They have all these resistance buffs and just typical Paladin stuff. Not crazy strong in this game, but has a lot of group cohesion and can do fine solo. Scout is the main archer class. They have a shield. They can get slam, and they can shoot stuff with a bow. So they're pretty strong. One of the stronger archers because of that slam. Minstrel really good. They have an instant stun, instant DDs. They annoy people quite a bit, but they're hard to play. They have speed similar to a Skald, but they just do less damage overall. But they do have a pet, so you can get a pretty good pet later in the game with this class. Probably the hardest class to play. I've played one to rank 7. You just have a lot of things to do. Probably not a good beginner class. I don't think anybody playing a Minstrel for the first time in this game would stick with this game because it's too complicated for most people. If you're a pro gamer and all you do is do the most complex stuff, go for it. Otherwise, I'd say probably not a Minstrel. Theurgist casts pets that have a limited duration, so between like 20 seconds to a minute, depending on the pet that you cast. And some of them do ranged attacks, some of them run up fast and hit people, and they're pretty easy to kill, but you can cast them in succession. You can have like 14 of them chasing somebody around, hitting them. So they're pretty powerful if and they're pretty easy to play because you just press 1 or 2 buttons. So Theurgist is a pretty good beginner's class for Albion, just because they're highly desired. They're super annoying to fight against, and people really like them. They're squishy, so if somebody gets up on you, it's going to be tough. But it's a caster. Cleric's great. Cleric I played quite a bit as well. You can stun people. You have main heals. So main healer class, really good heals. You can smite people with lightning, which is fun. So similar to a Thane, the only 2 classes in the game that have lightning, which is great animation in this game, or great spell effect in this game. Main healer class. Wizard, fire, bolts. You know the drill. A lot of fun. They can also do ice or matter. So yeah, it's a pretty simple class to play. If you're starting out, I'd say Wizard, Armsman are 2 good classes to play in the beginning. Wizard, you can just hang in the back and just nuke people and do pretty well. You get a little frustrated because they don't have a ton of utility. It's hard for them to get out of a fight if somebody's on top of them. But if you're running with a group, could be a pretty simple, easy class to play. Does a lot of damage. Sorcerer is a main CC class. They're a caster. They also do CC similar to a healer. They're a really good class. I wouldn't pick it as your first class. They have a pet, they have to charm, and they have a lot of abilities, and a lot is riding on the sorcerer because you have to get the CC out, meaning that you have to control the other realm, the other group, and so that responsibility can be stressful, so I wouldn't recommend that as a first class. Infiltrator, good solo class, not good for groups, typically. Stealth, dual wield, envenom, all that jazz, a rogue character. Friar, fun class. You got like leather robes, and you got a quarterstaff, and you got like great styles, and really powerful in melee. You got great heal procs, meaning that when somebody hits you, it can heal you. Really, really strong class. No range, so if you get caught at range, you're kind of screwed. But you have healing spells. You can do great at melee. It's a really OP class. Played one of those as well. Mercenary's fun. It's a dual wielding class, a light tank. They have chain. They have a shield. So higher defense than typically than the other two light tanks. Yeah, great class. Probably would go Armsman over Mercenary for a beginner. But if you really like the DPS and the dual wield, go for it. You're just going to have to learn how to switch your shield out to be able to slam people. I think that's a pretty simple class to play otherwise. Necromancer is probably not a good beginner's class, but it's a great class for people who want a different play style. You have a pet that a lot of the things get casted through. So you're in this little shade form that nobody can touch. They can only kill you if they kill your pet first, and your pet is this like servant that can cast spells and it's fairly tanky in some cases. So it's kind of fun. They have like cool life drain spells, damage over time spells. Yeah, it's a fun class. I wouldn't play it as your first because the mechanics of controlling your servant is really awkward if you've never played this game before. So any pet classes, it takes some getting used to. So I wouldn't do that because you can't really play it without the pet mechanics. Cabalist, another pet class, great pet class, does damage, does debuffs, casts from range, has a pet, good class. Wouldn't do it as my first, but interesting class to play. I've played this one as well. Reaver, a lot of fun. They do life drain. They're a tank. They have shield, a whip. They whip people with positional styles from the side and from the back. Ton of fun. Life drain stuff. Not a lot of hit points, so it's not a preferred tank in a group, but they have charge. They can run in. Similar to Mercenary, it also has charge. You can run in. So fun class. Heretic, healing, damage from range, and they have a whip, cloth, but they can actually absorb a lot of melee damage. So that's a fun class. Again, no mauler in the game. And then, last but not least, we have Hibernia. Just kind of getting through the overview here as efficiently as possible. Okay, so you have, let's see, a hero, which has a spear. They have a shield, main tank. They can turn into a moose, which gives them a lot more hit points. And yeah, they have a couple of different cool abilities that make them one of the highest hit points classes in the game. Well, definitely the most hit points by far, depending on how you look at it. So great first choice. Then you have a Blademaster, which is a light tank. They have 2 weapons, dual wield. They also have a shield, similar to the Mercenary. And you have charge, and you have damage mitigation from triple wield. And so, yeah, you have a lot of cool abilities with Blademaster. It's a strong class. Good class. Champion is also a good class. It debuffs people, so it debuffs all their stats and makes them super weak. You also have a shield. You have two-handed. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. If you want to go two-handed and you want to debuff people, Champion's pretty cool. I'd say it's still simple enough where you could play it as a beginner, but you got to make sure that you remember to put all the debuffs on somebody. That's where all their strength comes from. Okay, and then you have a Warden, which is a healer who also has a shield, can slam. You know, shield's powerful in this game, so any class with a shield is doing really well. So they actually can heal and use slam. They have a lot of group abilities like celerity, meaning everybody can attack faster. They have a bubble. Everybody can absorb hits. So really strong class, group class, good solo class. You have a Bard. Bard is a main CC class, so they can mez in AoE mez. They can heal. They can run fast like a Minstrel or a Skald. So this is one of the stronger classes in the game. You need it for pretty much every group. Has a lot to offer. Good group class. A little bit harder to play if you've never played the game before. A lot riding on the Bard, similar to the Sorc and the healer, so I wouldn't recommend it as a first class. Druid is a main healer. Does all really good healing. Has root, can root people. They have a pet. You can spec into nature, and the pet becomes super powerful, and it's a lot of fun to do solo stuff with, although it's a little cheesy. You run away and the pet attacks, and you heal the pet when they attack the pet. So they have options for different playstyles. Banshee's fun. Banshee's like a wizard, does damage from range, but they also have like a point blank area pulse near them that does damage, and they have an area near sight and all these different spells that are cool, but primarily it's a damage based class. You turn into this like wraith and you scream. So if you don't like hearing like all the time, then probably don't play a Banshee, because that's what the sound effect sounds like. All right, and then we have a Mentalist. Mentalist is a pretty powerful class, one of the most powerful casters in the game, because they can heal, they can demez, they can stun. They have pretty much everything that you need as a caster. They have a pet. It's crazy. They're a really crazy class. Good first class if you're okay with a ton of abilities and a ton of utility, but they're just so good that, you know, it's pretty easy to recommend. Okay, so you have a Nightshade solo class, assassin class. Not a good group class, but good for stealth, solo. Ranger, archer, dual wield, bow, fun class, but you know, not a popular group class, so would recommend doing that only if you're planning on soloing. Traditionally, some people can play a ranger really well, but typically not a group class. Animist casts shrooms on the ground, and the shrooms do all kinds of stuff, like do damage, or they will heal or disease, and so that's pretty cool. They're really good for farming, for group stuff, not a bad class for your first one. They're a little weird. No other class really plays like this, with the ground target and then casting a pet on the ground target that doesn't move. It's a little bit unique. Valewalker has a big scythe, a little bit more complicated to play because you got range spells, you got instant spells, you got positional styles you need to use, you got, you know, cloth robes, but then you have high absorb similar to a heretic. But you know, you can be a tree, so that's cool. Same with Animist, you can be a tree. A lot of these you can be a tree. I'm all about the trees. Clearly. That's what I'm playing this season. Don't know if I'd recommend it as a first one, but it's definitely cool. Maybe a second, third class. There's no Vampire, there's no Mauler. Both really OP solo classes that it's a good thing they're not in the game. If they do bring them into the game, they'll probably nerf them because they're a little too strong for this patch level. All right, and then what do you got next? You got Enchanter, pet class, has a stun, has a debuff, pretty fun. Pet can do a lot of different stuff like heal, do damage, cast, etc. You have an Eldritch, which is the main bolt damage class, which can do debuffs, good range, near sight. They have a lot of utility as well, but they're a caster, so casters are, you know, weak if somebody gets on top of them, but they're strong at range, so you just got to keep them at range if you're going to play a caster. Hib's known for being a caster heavy realm, so really strong casters on Hib. Okay, that's the overview. So whichever realm you decide to choose, hopefully now you have a better understanding of what classes you know, are maybe more fitting your play style, and you can understand a little bit more about what might be beginner friendly if you've never played. So good luck out there, and I'll be making some other content to break down how do you actually get into the game, understand what all the mechanics are, how to play properly, and yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you. Take care.